first of all, we try to solve problems where we identify problems for ourselves. That's where the NASA app is coming from heavily, but also out of office and so on.
Summarized our mission as we do apps that really are quite invisible to the user and get things done.
Any thoughts on creating this into an animated series yet, or a video game? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I have a special treat for you in what is our Summer of Atlassian first time ever two guests at the same time. Technically one, it's Resolution, but two representatives from Resolution. So thank you very much, Jaime and Bjorn, for jumping on here. And first of all, thank you for your support. Incredible support you've given me and this channel over the last couple of years. So first of all, thank you.
It's an amazing channel. So thanks a lot for having us today.
Yes. And so why don't we start off with just a couple of brief introductions here. Bjorn, why don't you tell us what you do, and then we'll go over to Jaime.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm Bjorn, co-CEO at Resolution. I'm based in Berlin, Germany. I'm working for Resolution since 2019, but I know most of the guys since over 15 years because we worked in a previous company together, run a services business in a Cisco ecosystem. But yeah, now I love to work for a 30-person company and doing amazing apps for the Atlassian universe.
Nice. And Jaime, what about you?
Yeah, so I joined Resolution a little bit later in 2020, right during the pandemic. I do mostly marketing, also a little bit of product with out of office. Yeah, it's an amazing job. I work remotely from Madrid. This is my office. This is also my living room. This is also my dining room. So it's
and kids' playground.
Multi-purpose room.
Exactly. And kids may show up. I think they will not, but kids may show up at some point and have to relocate. We'll see. I've been in the ecosystem a bit longer, since 2018. And yeah, it's a fantastic ecosystem, as you know, like super friendly and everything. So really enjoy talking to customers and creating products for them.
Awesome. So again, nothing very specific, right? I kind of wanted this to be a very casual conversation. Just get the people to know, because they hear Resolution a lot on my channel, right? As they watch a lot of the videos, as they're seeing the Summer of Atlassian, and even from last year, they hear the word Resolution quite a bit. So we just wanted to, peel the behind the scenes, if you will, of who is Resolution. Why are they so awesome? Why do they sponsor us here? And why are they all over the place? So just again, super informal, just a casual conversation about what you guys do. I wanted to kick things off with the number of apps that you guys have in the Atlassian ecosystem. A lot of vendors are lucky to have one. You guys have dozens. What's the story here? What's this market strategy, or just overall strategy? Like, are you looking for volume? What's the intent?
Yeah. Okay. There are a lot of questions. So, the interesting part on Resolution is that it exists since 1990, if I'm correct. So the company was founded super early. It was more a company for Chris Reichert, the co-founder, to write invoices at this time to his customers, because he was one of the youngest Cisco engineers in the world. And he traveled around the world, worked 3 months, and then had always 3 months vacation. So where these amazing days where you earn $3,000 day rates for doing some engineering stuff on Cisco devices, switches, routers, and so on. And then Chris founded a couple of other companies. So I joined him in another company, 2009. And this was also Cisco stuff, etc. And the whole Atlassian story started when we implemented Jira and Confluence for ourselves. So we used Salesforce. We created Salesforce Jira integrations, Salesforce Confluence integrations, and so on, all by ourselves. And at this time, the marketplace doesn't really exist. And on some point, Chris was totally bored from logging in Jira and Confluence several times a day. So, and he said, okay, there must be a solution. And there were, at this time, it was single sign-on was a relatively new topic in the IT industry. There were some older standards, Kerberos stuff, and so on. But Chris said, no, let's go to a newer standard. Let's check out these new SAML stuff, and let's create an app for ourselves. And in parallel, Atlassian invented the marketplace. So, and he just put the app, the first single sign-on app, which was developed in 4 to 6 weeks. He just put it on the marketplace, and in the first year, it generated, without marketing, without sales, a 5-digit amount of revenue. And then he figured out, okay, that's maybe something where he should look. Yeah, there is something here. Let's invest a little bit more. And his first investment was super interesting. It was hiring Hui. He's still working for Resolution as a partner manager because he said, okay, there are a lot of solution partners, and it was a similar ecosystem in the Cisco world. And Chris at this time knew that partners can be a super important accelerator for an app business or for a solution business. And he picked this strategy. For many, many years, we had just this SAML app and then additions to it. So we created user sync, which is also included in the SAML single sign-on app.
Yeah, that was one of your more popular ones in the data center days, right? Ronnie's always talking about her. He still prefers that one.
Yeah, it is all data center stuff. But also nowadays, it's what paying the bills, to be honest. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So we are, yes, you mentioned it. We have dozens of apps. I think Jaime 46 or something like this are at the moment when you count every flavor.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, it's also for a point that we have the SAML one is, for example, there's one for Confluence, one for Jira, one for Bitbucket, etc. So, when you count them on the marketplace, it looks a little bit more than it actually is in terms of the source code and actual apps. But yeah.
But it's a good like sleight of hands, right? It makes you feel like you have way more.
AppFire, we're coming. Yeah.
How many do you keep track? Like how many apps AppFire has?
No, but not really, but a couple of hundred. So
wow, so you're way. Then there's a long way to go. Yeah. I was just talking to Ed Gale, and he was saying that in 2021-ish or something like that, 2022, they went through like 22 acquisitions.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
No, I did want to ask you guys, the apps here, they're because you guys developed them, or are you acquiring intellectual property as well?
I think we did it 2 times that we bought apps. I mean, the resolution strategy is a little bit split. It is, to summarize it quickly, it is develop amazing apps by our own or buy amazing apps in an early stage, but this happened just 2 times in our history, or investing in startups with really good ideas, what we do actively in parallel. Not similar to AppFire that we buy the whole company. It's more that we invest human resources plus money, and then we're getting equity, something between 15 and 30%. And then we work together with these teams. But most of the apps, what we have today, and especially on cloud, because you're not so interested on the data center part.
I mean, Atlassian is not so interested in the data center part.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't get to choose for the people. Atlassian chose for us.
So the cloud apps, because you asked for the strategy, what's our strategies there? The short version of the story is all our successful user management apps don't have a future in cloud. So there is no way that we can migrate them to cloud since now. So we don't know what the future will bring. And this is for a company, an interesting point. I call it a little bit, we are a startup with money and we know when our business will be disrupted. And this is what most of the companies normally not know. They are surprisingly disrupted, or they are a startup without money. So means 3-4 years ago, we said, okay, we need to create a new cloud strategy. And it was clear that we will not have another multi-million-dollar idea immediately in our bucket without playing around and testing out things. And we started to create all these embed apps in different services like Airtable, SurveyMonkey, Typeform, HubSpot, Monday, and so on. And that's why we had so many integration apps. And now I mean, it's an interesting time when we are talking. I had yesterday a meeting of offboarding apps, so we will clean up a little bit, and we clean up now all the stuff which haven't driven customer attention. So it means apps like HubSpot on Monday, they are super successful now, and they are already a lot more as an embed app. They are proper integrations and collaboration tools for teams. But apps like Typeform or SurveyMonkey, nobody in Atlassian was interested to implement it. So we are shutting it down now. And it is a little bit the question what we asked ourselves, and Jaime, we discussed it often heavily. So what is our mission? What is our vision as Resolution? Yeah, you have companies who have a clear mission statement. We are doing apps in, I don't know, product management or agile or easy BI in business intelligence.
Yeah, there's a focus. There's a niche that you kind of zoom in on.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at our apps, you ask immediately, okay, where's the focus? Because there are so many focus points. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, we try to solve problems where we identify problems for ourselves. That's where the NASA app is coming from heavily, but also out of office and so on. So it means a lot of our apps solving niche cases and giving additional productivity to teams or increase the productivity. And I would say that's a little bit our focus when I need to state out a mission statement. Then we are a company who creating apps which getting things done and increase productivity for companies in very specific use cases.
Yeah, but isn't that diversification then kind of dangerous for a company? Maybe at least maybe a new company.
Yeah, well, that's what I was showing this book, The Innovator's Dilemma. I think it's super interesting for anybody who is in innovation and who is in a moment where they have to move from a mature product to a less mature product. We have so many challenges that look like what this book describes. That's what's so interesting about working at Resolution is that we are supporting so many different apps. We need to think of processes, even if you just think of marketing, but development is even harder. Think of processes that scale, where you can actually focus on creating a proven process that doesn't drain your resources and that you're supporting multiple exercises of experimentation more or less at the same time. And you push all those, right? And you have to find a way that you can do that while still supporting your existing products.
And not running out of cash.
Yeah. We have the luck that the data center part of it is a good funder, is a good VC company that we have behind our back. So that's not a huge problem, but the resourcing part of it is a huge dilemma. That is completely true. And we always have to go back and prioritize and think, okay, what's the best way that we can do and to have a good story. So, for example, I really liked when Bjorn had the idea of our latest app, NASA. It's a product for changing how you do stand-ups. We know that thousands of Atlassian customers do stand-ups. We know that they know they're doing them wrong, or that people are usually very tired of how the ritual feels every morning. It doesn't really provide value, but it's short, so it's not, it really doesn't kill your entire day, but it very often doesn't add a lot of value. I'm sure you know this as you're a certified.
I've been through thousands of them, so yes.
Exactly. It's like a necessary evil. You don't know what to do with it. You go through the Jira board. It feels like
if you're lucky, right? If you're not lucky, it's an hour-long status call.
So, but it's difficult because people don't perceive this as a problem, and that's a very difficult thing for us to do. To basically go out to the world and say, "Hey, you have this problem. You need to focus on this, and you need to break. You need to stop doing what you're doing." It's hard for us as a small company with so many products to do that for each product. So that's why we need to innovate a little bit with channels and approaches. And I really liked when Bjorn said, let's stream our stand-ups. Because that's the kind of thing that people slowly notice, and that you can actually build a muscle and prove that it's actually better. Like our stand-ups are always below 15 minutes, which is like the most basic failure point of stand-ups that they run into 45 minutes, 1 hour and a half sessions, and so on.
So many things to unpack there, though. So one, you said, Bjorn, 30 people in the company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing all of this
Yeah.
with this many people. That is crazy.
And we are just working 4 days a week. So
Okay, that's something we're gonna get to that. Don't spoil the 4-day work week yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But it is still crazy, like this the amount of I would imagine the amount of coordination and the amount of just communication you need to do internally as a team to keep all these balls in the air without dropping them is just it has to be magical.
Yeah, it needs it feels sometimes like magic. Yeah. It needs absolutely the right team, and we have an amazing team, or amazing teams. We are split it in legacy team, so which is paying the party, our data center developers. We have the marketing team, we have the cloud team, and then some people around these teams. And all teammates are somehow the company in the company. And this is important when you want to do exactly strategies like this with experiments, when you want to drive these 20, 30 different flavors of apps parallel in a quarter. You want to try something new with streaming, etc. People need to feel responsible for all these experiments, activities, and so on. And it needs also full transparency. So means every employee knows our revenue. Every employee has a feeling what are our costs, and they have also a feeling that what does it mean when I pay $5,000 more for a Google Ads campaign to experimenting with that? Does this need a management approval every time? No. When I'm not available or Chris not available and Jaime is making the decision, I want to do this experiment now. And
you want to do it responsibly, but still have autonomy. So it's a very good discipline to be teaching and encouraging for your employees.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, yeah, like things get lost in the red tape of like approvals and processes and stuff, but you have to grow. So you do have to trust your team to a certain degree. Obviously, you don't want Jaime just, spending $5,000 every day just on experiments.
When it is successful, then it's fine for me.
Yeah, so my quote, my motto for the rest of this year is volume negates luck. I think a lot of people just think you get lucky, right? And it goes kind of back to the beginning, right? Most app makers, they're lucky if they get one app out there. But you guys have seen a tremendous amount of success, and I was wondering, is volume part of that, right? Like, does volume negate getting lucky when you're doing so many experiments? You're trying so many different ways of marketing, the different app types, right? Because even when you look at your portfolio, NASA compared a single sign-on night and day. They have nothing to do with each other, right?
But it's the end-to-end journey, because at some point I summarized our mission as we do apps that really are quite invisible to the user and get things done, right? That was like my understanding at some point. But NASA has changed that completely. Like, this is super visible to the user. It's a very visual app. It's an app that really drives focus and drives attention, captures the entire team for the duration of the stand-up. So yeah, there's an entire journey there, and it's there's so many things on what you mentioned as well. Like, I think you need room for experimentation. You also need the courage and the transparency for people to come forward and say, I believe we should stop doing this, or I believe we're not going to have time to complete this, or I believe we should reassess this thing because it's not working. So there's a lot of moments for going back to the basics and look at things, because we cannot afford to just do for the sake of doing.
So it sounds like you're going to have not another retro apps, Nara, soon? What you're doing is you got to reflect, right? It seems like as fast as you guys are moving and as fast as you're innovating and just trying new things, you also got to take timeouts every once in a while and go, what happened? Like, what went well, what didn't go well, right? And have those retrospectives.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's also what you mentioned before is volume replacing luck here. Maybe not replacing, because you still need to have the luck then in volume, but it's not this one lottery ticket. Yeah, when you're a marketplace vendor and you have one app, to be honest, when you finish the development of an app and you have the first version out, when it's quick, you can say after 6 months this will be successful on some point. You still can't say, is it a $100,000 revenue per year app? Is it $1 million revenue per year app? This is maybe possible somewhere in between 6 and 18 months. Out of Office, the first 3 years, it's our oldest cloud app. The first 3 years were a drama. So a lot of companies would have shut it down, and that's often what people or where people need to remember. It needs a good idea, the right team to do the idea, and the right timing. And very often ideas are good and you have the right team, but your timing is wrong. You need to somehow balance this. And that's the reason why we said, okay, we can't just buy one lottery ticket. Let's do our gambling, our strategy a little bit better. We buy a couple of them and then maybe we win. With a couple of them.
Yeah, because for this summer we're focusing on NASA and Out of Office, like all the sponsorships for this channel, right? We're man, I sat there Saturday. Andres gave me a list of like 60 prompts to read through. I don't do scripts. I hate scripts. And so I was like, it took me a lot longer to record like a 5-second clip. It took me 2 hours to record a 65-second clip. But at the end, I was like, you know what? I kind of get the message. I'm just gonna wing it. So spoilers for when you start seeing the August videos. They're gonna be a little different.
Yeah, no worries. I think I played with those a little bit. At some point, I was like, these don't all have to be different. This can all be the same with small variations, because I think you get the message across better, and for yourself as well. It sinks in.
Right. No, it was fun though. It was good. So we'll I love the experimentation thought. I think this is why I partner with companies like you guys, right? Where last year was very different. This year we're trying something a little bit different. And this channel, right? Like my channel's pretty big at this point, right? I get over 100,000 views a month. I just got an email. I'm 200,000 views away from 2 million views on the channel.
Whoa.
So there's a good amount of traffic. Thank you. Yeah, there's a good amount of traffic. This channel is my focus 24/7. Like all my creative thoughts go into growing and scaling this channel. So it's amazing to have, like, again, support like you, where like I don't have to worry as much about how am I going to feed the family today, right? And I can focus on like how can I grow the channel so that I can get more amazing support like the one I get from Resolution. So again, thank you again from the beginning.
Yeah, the interesting point here maybe is that we're doing exactly the same things like you. You have, at the moment, your successful channel, it's growing, and it's foreseeable that you can feed your family and your kids the next couple of months and hopefully the next couple of years with it. But you're also working on additional things on other channels and so on. And that's a little bit this innovation dilemma again. So it is important that a company focus on the stuff where I can earn money now and maybe the next years or 2-3 years. But as an organization, and that's a clear task for everybody in the team, but it's also a clear management task. It's also thinking about, okay, how can I pay salaries in 5 years? What is my product then? And these experiments need to happen now and not in 5 years. And that's exactly the hard thing, I think, especially for marketplace vendors at the moment, because Atlassian is catching a lot of amazing use cases with their own features.
Like native,
and
their own native
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, as a customer, I would love it when more cool functionalities are in the base system and I don't need to buy 20, 30 apps in addition. But I think this marketplace world is changing at the moment, that these super generic apps are more and more on risk because of Atlassian's more and more better development in these directions. And it's more about these finding the niche use cases where you can provide additional value.
Yeah, and I think that's where NASA comes in so well, right? Because everybody that practices Agile is practicing a stand-up app in one way, shape, or another, right? And like I told you earlier, right? I've been in thousands of them. I wouldn't even say dozens, thousands of dozens, right? So many over my 14-year career here, every single day, right? 5 days a week, and they become complacent, right? There's this thing where like they're ripe for innovation because everybody just is frustrated with them
Yeah.
Everybody does them, but nobody's thinking outside the box with them. And so again, this is where I love how you guys have come in with NASA, created a whole acronym. If that's what it's called, right? It's technically like a pun.
Yeah.
And so why don't you walk me through the design process? How did NASA come to be?
Yeah, I mean, it was the starting point, and I don't spoiler again, but the starting point was definitely the change in our working environment, or the planned change in our working environment, because it brought up the point that our stand-up sucks at this time as well.
So well, let me pause you there just real quickly then, because timeline wise, I'm sitting in the audience, team 23, and you are evangelizing. We make it work with the 4-hour week. Oh, sorry, 4-day week, right? You're up there. You're like, how do we do a 4-day week? Was NASA already in your minds at that point, or did that come outside after that?
No, it was in the development process already. It was relatively short before we started to use it internally. So we started in summer 2023. We had a first alpha version of the app, and that's where we started to use the whole team as testing team. So we installed it on our production environment and said, okay, from now on, we are running our stand-ups with the app, and we know the next couple of weeks, and it were months at the end, were a little bit painful, but we tried to adapt these app at the same time. There were already 7 months development in it. So we started in September 2022. We made the decision of the 4-day week in summer 2022 that we want to do it. We took 6 months to preparing it. We redesigned all our workflows, checked our behaviors and so on, and tried to optimize a lot of stuff, and also successful optimize a lot of things. And one outcome was, after we tested a lot of stand-up apps, okay, we need to create one by our own, because we were not really happy with all the stand-up apps in the marketplaces. There were some cool ideas, but it was not really a feeling complete solution for it. We also tested other stuff like Spinach.io and so on at this time. And also this was feeling not perfect. And we said, okay, that's a good idea for an app, and potentially it already pays out when just we using it every day, and we are more productive with the app and having, again, fun in stand-ups instead that everybody hates a meeting. So that was the initial idea. Yeah.
NASA stands for not another. Let me get my English stand-up app right. But you've also created an icon. And this stands out to me because there's not a lot of apps within the Atlassian ecosystem that have a visual representation, a friendly, memorable visual representation of their app, right? A lot of people just have like logos or their names or something, right? Something simple. But any thoughts on creating this into an animated series yet, or a video game?
That's an interesting idea. So hopefully you're not licensing the idea when we're doing it in the future.
It's funny. I was thinking about doing like an adventure game with one of these generative AI tools for creating like text-rich video games about, agile stand-ups and NASA and so on. But it's an angle so that we make it very simple and it's doable. But if you want to help, we can discuss.
Well, I'll have my people talk to your people, because I think it'd be so cool, right? Like, storytelling is a very powerful thing, right? And being able to have an amical character, a recognizable character, right, as we have here, it adds a lot of value, right? Because a lot of people, the way I've seen it, right? So, because I've always been more on the end user side of the house as opposed to the marketplace vendor, right? And so my struggles with the app with stand-ups have been one of two things. Either they're like an hour long, right? Like, I'm not kidding, 1 hour minimum long, because it turns into like everybody's got problems and we start solutioning the problems, and we don't have strong scrum masters that are there to guide the conversation. So everybody, and then you go beyond 5 people, you're like 10 people, 20 people. Pretty soon you got like the whole, we're staying just through lunch at this point, right? Because there's just so many people involved. And then there's the opposite end, which is like everybody's like, hey, we're out in 15 minutes. It's got to be 15 minutes. But then you're like, but I don't even get a chance to say my problem, right? Like you're speed running through it to the point where you're like, it's not very beneficial at that point either. So it'd be interesting to see like through a character, like how to do the stand-up, right? Like what's the best practice? Like what's a good guide? How do you balance things out and have this character really like appeal to the users with their pain points? So I don't know, that's what I would do if I had a little character like you guys.
It's an amazing idea. I mean, we just need to combine the stuff what we're already doing. So it means we are streaming our marketing stand-up live 2 times a week, and we have on our team page South Park characters. So when we now combine it, then we are relatively close.
I wasn't even aware of that. So yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about that then? Let's pivot a little bit. Like, how do you get your brand out there? Like, what do you guys work on because I see, Bjorn, you make a lot of videos on like stand-ups right now. You're part, not only you're running the company, but you're hammering out videos upon video upon video. So what does that look like? Like what motivates you guys, or what's the strategy for how do we get our app out there and people using it?
It's a really good question. And before Bjorn answers, let me dig a bit deeper into the problem, perhaps, because we knew that organic search or direct search in the marketplace would not do it. As I was saying before, people are kind of, okay, they're not happy with the stand-ups, but they're a necessary problem, right? Necessarily, they don't want to change it. We knew that it was going to be difficult to even rank organically because SEO is changing a lot. SEO is changing a lot these days, and those are hard keywords to fight for. And again, people are not fighting for that. So you really need to be recognized as the only ones who are talking about this problem at all in the world, and that's where you need something that really puts your face out there and makes you recognized consistently, kind of a building a muscle thing, day in, day out. And that's where I think Bjorn had a really good idea. That it's not too much effort. That obviously requires commitment, but it's really doable.
Yeah, I mean it's always a combination. So we are back to the topics that we're experimenting a lot, and I mean you creating a lot of videos, and you know how much effort it is creating a video based on script or a live demo and so on. And it's much easier to have creating a video like this where we have a nice chat and discussing points and so on. So the preparation effort is much lower because you don't need to have a script and so on. And in most of the cases, you're creating more engaging content. So last week, a customer said to me, we had a meeting, I presented the NASA app to them, and he said, I saw your tutorial, but the live presentation now in this style, how you did it today, is much better as your scripted tutorial. And that's amazing feedback because this somehow helps us as Resolution to understand, okay, we are now on the right way with the live streaming stuff, because understanding the value of an app which improves meetings, the best way to showing it is showing it in a meeting and not in another marketing video or in
in a very controlled environment, right?
Exactly.
That's an interesting thing, right? Because like I guess it goes back to like video games and Twitch and streamers, right? Like I always as Twitch and video game streaming was growing in popularity, right? Because live streaming was not really a popular thing a few years ago, right? Yeah, and it's like, why would you want to watch anybody play a video game? And the best analogy I heard was like, why do we watch people play sports? Like, why do we watch people play football and soccer? Or I guess football and soccer is the same thing for you guys. For me, it's 2 different sports, right? But why do we watch? Like, what's the point of watching these live sports? And it's like, because you're not there, you're not on the pitch, like doing it, right? You're just a bystander. But it's such an interesting opportunity. It was like you can grow by watching somebody do it, and in a real world of a scenario as possible. And there's an appeal, there's like an attraction to watch people stumble through it and kind of learn through it. And the best success story that I have is, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see, but at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I was live streaming myself study for one of the ACP certification from Atlassian. And it was just like a 12-hour I didn't know how long it was going to be, but it was just like for 1 to 2 hours every Saturday, I would just hit record and start learning. And
Yeah.
people loved it. People loved like just the really, really good reception. I'm like, hey, this is cool because
What
I got to study with you.
what did you do to kind of make people follow through what you were doing? Were you reading things out loud? Were you doing
Yeah,
it
so
on the screen or just going through Jira?
so it was a 2-person effort. So I had King Bob, right,
Yeah.
Robert Nguyen, and it was me going through the material that they gave you and
Okay.
just kind of reading because it was, to me, it was like the most boring thing in the world. But the amount of feedback that I got, like physically at Teams, from people saying like, I passed the ACP 520 because of your video, like that just to me just melted
That's
my heart,
cool.
right? Because
Yeah.
because like the only intent was like, I pulled up the links and I would read through all the links, but the important thing is for each of the links I would go and do it in Jira. Like
Yeah.
they're like, hey, here's how you add a user. I'm like, great, let's go to Jira and let's add a user the way they do it here.
Yeah.
But where a lot of people also got a value is Bob and I have different styles, different techniques to do the exact same thing. And see, we would kind of like banter and argue and go, hey, well, you can also think of it like this, or you can do it that way. And so people were getting value from that.
Mhm.
That's kind of how that went through.
I mean, it's also, I think live streaming or consuming live stream content is also a huge motivator to doing the same stuff. So I recognize it by myself when I watch, and from time to time I watch live streams from Gamer, and immediately I want to play the game, but I still stick with the live stream for another hour, and so on, because it's so interesting. But I think the learning effect from your story, Alex, is really cool. That when I see that somebody is doing it now, it's really strong motivation for also starting it and consuming it longer. But it depends on the content. I mean, okay, on Twitch you have a lot of channels where people sitting just in a pool and having a drink, and this for 12 hours or something like that. So, but
There's like 7 or 8 billion people on Earth. There's a niche for
exactly,
everything these days.
exactly. So that's crazy. But I got also from Hubert. He's an ACE leader in Berlin here, and he started with a small marketplace vendor. He's a one-person team, and his feedback to our live stream was, and I really loved this one, that he's watching it every morning when we are doing it, because it feels for him like that he's part of the team, because he's working alone, and that is his team moment 2 times a week. And this is also nice feedback, but yeah, I think at the moment it's being creative. When you look on all the marketing possibilities and so on, Raime mentioned it, just betting on the search results in the marketplace is not enough anymore. And especially when your customer is not searching to fix a problem,
That they
because
don't know
then
they
you're not
have.
getting them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you got to raise awareness essentially, right? You just need to
Yeah.
help them know that there is a problem and that there is a
And
solution.
it's such a cultural topic also, and I think it's important to see people going through this exercise over and over and be relatable and be there. It's also interesting for me the experience after months of using NASA. Um, if I've ever changed company in the future, not that I have any plans, when we do stand without NASA, I would completely panic. Like, how do you guys do this? You don't have a process. You're improvising.
Yeah.
And then I did it
No,
after a team. Like half the team was on vacation. I was sick for a couple of days. Then we kind of showed up and talked. There was 3 of us, and we hadn't prepared the stand up. And we said, okay, let's just give this stand up without NASA. And it felt so weird. It was like jumping off a car that is rushing through through traffic, right? It felt like being naked. I don't know.
yeah.
It's
I
just
just
something that once you fall into it,
Yeah.
it's kind of this nice structure around
so
that.
now the trick is to figure out how do we get everybody to share in that passion and fire of NASA,
Yeah.
given that there's no oxygen in space. By the way, my son completely. I have a little one. We here in LA. So you might enjoy this then when you by the time you guys come for Team 25, I think it'll be ready. But in Central LA, we have Endeavor, the space shuttle,
Yeah.
and the boosters and the fuel tank. It's all erected and all put together. The whole space shuttle here for the United States space program, right? So my son loves space right now. He was an astronaut for Halloween last year. And so Endeavor, the spaceship, we used to be able to go visit it, and they had it laying down like on its wheels. And you can go and see it, but now they got the rest of the kit, so now they have it all. They've been building a new building to make it stand up like when it's going to go out to space. And so my son just loves it, right? So we took him right before they closed the whole thing down because of the renovation. And when he saw my jacket, my wife sent him a picture of the jacket, and he was like, immediately, like, I can't even wear my jacket because it's in his closet.
Yeah, I mean, direct after Team 24, I went to Houston to visit the NASA Space Center. So it was also a need to take some pictures with NASA equipment because of our app. So,
Well, make sure you make some room because Southern California, in case you didn't know, is the birthplace of the space shuttle program, right? So we built space shuttles in Downey, California, so you can still visit the original hangars where the space shuttle was built in Seal Beach, California. So there's within 20-30 minute drives of Southern California, you can visit a lot of those historic places where the space program was based out of here in LA.
Cool. Then I definitely need to visit it next year.
Yeah. So make sure you add a couple of extra days to your itinerary because there's a lot of history in Southern California with respect to space. In fact, still even LA proper, right next to LAX, is all the space programs for Raytheon, for Boeing, and Northrop. So all their space exploration stuff and SpaceX for that matter is based out of that literally just mile or two from LAX airport.
Yeah.
So make some time. It'll be fun.
I will do.
All right. So transitioning a little bit more, I do want to talk about two more things here with our time. We only have a couple minutes left. That 4-day week, what was the driver behind that? Because my first interaction with Resolution was I went to that talk, and just some backstory, because I don't think I've ever publicly discussed this, right? But Brittany Joyner, the Trello Queen, right? I was hanging out with her, and I went to Team 23 as just a standalone person, right? I went by myself. I wasn't a content creator. I wasn't a community leader. I wasn't any of that. So I wasn't privileged to any of those insider stuff. Like this year was way different for me, right? So I saw somebody I recognized. I saw Brittany. So I was hanging out with her, and Brittany's like, "I'm gonna go to this 4-day work week thing."
Okay,
like, cool, I'll just join you. I'm like, I'll join you because I didn't have anything else to do, and I was just like hanging out with Brittany, right? So we went and listened to your talk, and in your talk, you're like, "Hey, come over to our booth and take a picture," right? I think you were raffling something off or something. But what you don't know is that Funman Andy, right before I went to your booth, I had taken stickers. I had taken my little stickers for my channel, and I had like a little stack, and I was walking around Team 23 with the stack in my hand, and I couldn't give them to anybody. I didn't have the courage to give my sticker to anyone. And Andy just like took them away from my hand, and he started putting them on people's badges and giving them away. And I'm like, Andy, what are you doing? And he's like, you got to be bold. You got to just do stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you got to go get what you want. And I'm like, that's not how I operate, right? He's like, you just got to go. You got to do things. You got to just go and do it, and just don't think, just do, right? And so minutes later, I go to your talk, and you're like, come to our booth and take a selfie with us, right? I think you had like a little promotion thing going on. So I was like, you know what? It starts today. It starts with today, where I'm gonna go do what I'm not comfortable doing. And that's when I went over to your booth and introduced myself and told you guys about I make the YouTube videos, and I took a picture with and did the hashtag that you guys were doing like on Instagram or whatever. Yeah. And then like a month later or two, Andy introduced us to formally start this partnership that we've had for a while. So anyways, I don't know that you knew the backstory, but I just wanted to tell you how and why we crossed paths.
That's very nice. Yeah, the story.
It's a super nice story. I mean, it's Team 23 was anyway a little bit special also because it was the second one after pandemic. So the first one was like a classmate meeting of vendors and solution partners with 5 customers. But
I heard it was low attendance for the 2022 one.
But 2023 was it was a super team event for us, and we said, okay, we're interested if Atlassian will manage it to still grow it, and 2024 was even much better. No, but yeah, back to your question. I think the idea is happened on some point 2021, was totally delayed from the pandemic. So it was shortly before pandemic. We discussed it internally. I think it was an article somewhere in the news. I think one of our employees catched up on this, or Chris. And we started the discussion, but we parked them as a pandemic started, because we said, okay, we can't discuss a 4-day work week when we don't know if our business will exist or if the world will exist in the next 6 months. Right. So let's park it for the moment. And in 2022, we felt that we should have this discussion again. And there was multiple triggers. There was definitely the triggers just being interested in this, if this will work. So a little bit from the experiment perspective. There was also a lot of interest in the direction, is it more healthy and enjoyable for employees? Because it's on a low level, it sounds like, yeah, 4-day work week, everybody will enjoy it. But it also creates additional pressure on the 4 days working.
Right. So, and that's kind of why I'm digging into it, because I used to work at 980, which meant I worked 9 days, 80 hours to work the 80 hours, right? But my Monday through Thursday, where I was working 9 hours a day, that was tough. Even though it's just that one little extra hour, it took a mental toll on you. I mean, granted, you had every other Friday off, but still, a lot of companies.
But we are not doing the extra hour, so
that's critical, right?
I mean, it's our bet is really 100% productivity, 100% salary, 100% happy employees, but 80% of the time. So, and that's what we try to do now since 1.5 years, and it is super successful. I mean, Jaime, do you want to work 5 days?
No.
Cappy's like, nope. But it's interesting though, right? Because at least here in California, I think it's California, we've had, somebody's been trying to push for a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
Right. But at the scale of like, you only work 36 hours. But I think a lot of the industry is like, well, you have to work 40 hours, even though at least here in the US, that 40-hour work week came from the Industrial Revolution of you got to work a healthy amount of time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we were being worked too much or too little, right? Like before like the advent of machines and stuff. And so there's this concept of 40-hour week, and I feel most productive. Like I mean, me out of all people, yesterday I did a 15-hour day, right? But
it's a tough one.
it's 15-hour day every single day now, right? But but my productivity, right? Each of those hours, I feel like I'm being very hyper productive because I'm building this business, right? I have skin in the game. But I remember when I worked like regular jobs, like maybe an hour or two tops of productivity. The rest of it was just like straight meetings that were not value added. So like actual creative output for me was like for a 1 to 2 hours a day. So I can see a 4-day work week working really well when you kind of, but you got to shift mentally, right? You can't just have those meetings and stuff like that just for the sake of meetings.
Yeah, you need to change a lot of things, and this was clear from the beginning. When we just say we are working now 4 days and we change nothing, it was clear it will fail. So this was also, we are a 30-person company and we needed 6 months to prepare for it, and it was really proper project. Every workflow was reviewed, meeting culture and so on, and it is officially still a long-term experiment. So means from a management perspective, you should stop a 4-day work week when you see you put the business or the salary of all teammates on risk, and the company will be bankrupt in 6 months.
But if you think about it, though, you said something very important, right? Happy employees. I've always been of the thought that if I believe in the mission, right? If I feel like I'm part of something bigger, the time is irrelevant. I'll do whatever it takes, whether that's 3 hours or 100 hours. Like people that are genuinely happy to be at work, they're gonna do good work. So you don't need that extra time.
Yeah, but
for your team to share.
this is valid for. I sometimes feel very similar to that, and I know this. Okay, I'm in the flow. I stay in the flow, and okay, I'm working since 12 hours or 13 hours, and then yes, I do it. But we got super valuable feedback from, especially also our developers. So there was one developer, Johannes, and he said when we discussed the 4-day week that he really needs it because this working 5 days on development, and you can't push to creativity or productivity, especially in development. You need to be in the flow and so on. And he said, with all the stuff what we want to do, and he believes in the mission of resolution and so on, with all the stuff what we want to do, I don't have enough breaks anymore in between because it's a Saturday, you need to do your groceries, your family, cleaning your flat. Then on Sunday, you need to visit
doctors and dentists and kids
and all the stuff.
Right? Yeah.
And you're starting stressed again on Monday. And this was, I think, is for me, one of the most interesting learnings, how natural it feels now for me having these 3-day offs. So Friday is I do all the stuff in the house. I do the groceries. I organize stuff. That my Saturday and Sunday is really relaxing time, lazy time, or I can do whatever I want. And this creates so much energy for then exactly what you're saying, Alex, that you can jump with more energy in the Monday and you are more open to stay longer in the flow and being productive.
I think I hadn't thought about that way until now, but I think Mondays don't feel like Mondays anymore. They are not.
I like Mondays.
Yeah, great. You go back to work. You go back to doing interesting stuff. It doesn't matter, even if you go late to bed or Sunday or whatever. You're a bit tired, but it's energizing to go back to.
Yeah, it's here for most of my career. I've always had like the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, off, and by the time like December 29th rolls around, I'm like, I'm ready to get back to work. So like having that refresh every week, right? 3 days off. I can see how it can be like, hey, I'm just ready to get back into it because I've taken care of my stuff and my problems and my worries. I'm ready to hit the week running hard again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it. Yeah. Even another colleague said, because you have that natural disconnection time, he was solving a lot of problems that he couldn't solve during the week, just inadvertently while brushing his teeth on Friday or swimming in the swimming pool and so on, because he was on track. Things were there, and he just connected. Oh, I realized how I can solve this back. I had been working for 5 days.
And I think that's really critical too, right? Because I think it goes back to that whole meeting thing. Like I don't know how the developers. When I was a developer, I hated meetings, right? And even to today, I try to not have meetings. But there is value in like going for a walk, like having time off at the park. You can be your mind cognitive is still troubleshooting the problems at work, right? But being able to do that opens up a lot more opportunities than when you're like back to back to back to back to back. Like you're always in that you're always in that consistent. I don't want to use the word flow because you had a positive connotation for flow. This is a negative connotation for flow, right? But when you're in the heat of like having to work every single day and you have the responsibilities every single day, like that downtime that you do have on that weekend is, like you said, right? Is to catch up on all the problems you ignored Monday through Friday. And so it does open it up.
But it perfectly fits also, Alex, what you said. So when you're interested in the problem, then you're not stopped to working on this. And this is just also, giving a little bit more freedom. I mean, we're also not counting the 8 hours in the working days and so on.
Right.
Everybody has the flexibility. And when somebody says, okay, I'm totally blocked at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on a Wednesday, then he should stop working. Then when he can do it later or another day better, then please do it better on another day.
Because the rework is going to cost you more.
Exactly. And it is sometimes you work 8 hours on a problem and the next day you solve it in 2 minutes. And this is exactly to find more of these points, of the 2 minutes points, instead of stucking somewhere on the problem and not having progress.
And I did that just this week. Like it's now finally warm enough here in SoCal, so I'm like, I'm jumping into the pool, and I jumped into the pool for like an hour. And as I'm in the pool, I'm like, I'm thinking about the problems I'm trying to solve, and I'm like, I like run out of the pool, get back into my office. And my wife's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I figured it out."
Yeah, I have to say,
But most people make you feel guilty. Most companies make you feel guilty that you took an hour to go for a swim in the middle of the day, right? But it was so important because I could have dragged it out for 3-4 days trying to solve this problem, and I wouldn't have had a solution had I not just taken a 1 hour break to go swimming, right? Like,
I think to summarize, it has a lot to do with the company culture. And I think one of the wonderful things about Resolution is we're not in it for the growth and for like for crazy growth. We don't want to become a 3,000 employee company. We want to become what we are. We want to stay what we are, right? Bjorn, I think that's super interesting because we have our dilemma. We need to grow a part of the business that is not large enough, but we are doing it for the sake of becoming sustainable and just keeping the people that want to be in the company and being happy with who we are. And that's very unique. It's very, very rare. And the 4-day week is just kind of the bulletproof, environment for that.
very well said. Well, thank you guys very much for your time. I definitely think we need to do a part 2 because I did not get a chance to ask all my questions.
Looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun.
Great. So, thank you very much for both of you taking time out of your busy days. I know you guys are way, way ahead of my day. I'm about to start my day. But thank you again. And
thanks for the invitation, Alex.
Yeah, thanks for having us.